Hello and welcome to the Art of Decluttering. I am your host Kirsty and I'm doing a solo in that Amy's not here tonight, but I am not solo because I have Chris Lovett with me again. If you have not listened to his first interview with us, then please go back and listen. It's called The Discovery of Less. It's awesome. But let me introduce you to Chris and then we can get chatting. So Chris is an author, an executive and simplicity coach, a speaker, a career mentor, and minimalist. And he tells it as it is with a cracking sense of humour. He has a way of disarming you and getting into your head. We spoke to Chris
Don't tell people that.
Yeah, I know. See, we spoke to Chris in May 21, only weeks before his first book, The Discovery of Less, came out. And since then, he has given a TedX talk. He's enjoyed the success of his book, and we can't wait to find out more about what he's been up to. So welcome, Chris. It's so lovely to have your beaming, smiling face back with me.
Oh, bless you, Kirst. And likewise, it's lovely to see your face and hear how you guys are getting on. I mean, the year's gone quick, hasn't it? Since we first spoke.
Definitely has, and things have changed heaps here at the Art of Decluttering as well. So
I've seen. I've been supporting from I don't know however many thousands of miles away.
Yeah. So tell us what we missed in that intro. You're clearly not from Australia.
No. No, I'm a Londoner. I have been all my life. So yeah, I've so kind of grew up in South London and travelled the world a little bit, but I've still kept my Cockney tones. And yeah, so since we last spoke, I've lived in about 2 or 3 more different places. Just because the pandemic did a bit of a number on all of us, kind of keeping us housed and holed up in the same place. So I kind of took control of this whole minimalist experience. I was like, nah, let's get out and explore where we could explore. So I sold my last place, which was an apartment in South London. I sold that in March 21. Mm-hmm. No, March 21.
Yeah,
that was it. And then went on a little bit of a UK exploratory journey, and which is where we spoke.
Did you hop in a van or just in your car, or did you?
Just in the little car. Yeah, I packed everything that I had left into the little car with the dog, and travelled around the UK and just rented Airbnbs for like 2-3 months at a time and worked from there. So yeah, and then now I'm living in another rented accommodation just between London and Brighton, which is on the south coast. So I'm kind of closer to the sea. But it's close enough to the city, so I'm right in the middle. So yeah, beautiful. So that's where I've been. I've been in a lot of places since we last spoke, physically, mentally, many more.
And how did the launch of your book go?
Yeah, it went all right, actually. Yeah, thank you, and thank you for supporting it as well. So Discovery of Less came out a couple of days before my birthday in June 2021, and that was the debut. So that was the first time I'd ever done anything like this before. So going through that experience of writing a book, structuring it, and then having an editor, tear it to shreds, but also being really supportive at the same time. Getting a cover designer, working with all different types of platforms, including Amazon, to try and get it published. I mean, yeah, what a journey. And since it was launched, I was kind of like waiting to see what people would think, how would it impact people? And I'm still really surprised and humbled. Every couple of days I get a message from someone on Instagram or via email to say, this is what I have done because I have read Discovery of Less. And I was like, I'm not sure I ever really intended it to be this, kind of, ray of hope or things like that. But people have literally picked it up, read the first chapter, put it down and ordered skips or, changed careers or downsized their whole living situation, and they tell me this, and I'm a bit like, but I only made a couple of jokes in there. Like, I just told my story, and so I'm
It's
still
so
quite
personably
humbled.
written. Like it literally is written like you're chatting to your mate, like you're chatting to me as a
Yeah,
friend. It's so warm and like we said in the intro, you're disarmingly getting into people's heads. And like I know that um Belinda on our team is like such a super fan. Like she stalks you on Instagram, she's sending you messages, she's highlighting passages out of your book and
I
showing you
saw. It
how
was
much
amazing.
she's being impacted by your book. She
Oh, bless Belinda.
absolutely loves, like she's a fangirl of you, and it's
Oh wow.
like,
And that's the thing. Like, it was never really intended to be that way. But I remember one thing my editor always said to me. He said, look, you just have to keep it authentic. Because I went on this little bit of a not that didn't come off the rails really that much in regards to writing it, but he started to say you're not talking like you're starting to write like someone that you've read elsewhere.
yes,
And I was
you
like, yeah, it
think
did
you're
feel
meant
a
to
bit weird.
sound.
Yeah, how you're supposed to talk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, just write it as you would write it, as you would say it. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can definitely do that. And it became so much easier. And there were all these preconceived ideas about how you should write an article, how you should write a book, etc. And you should have all these long words and things like that. And I'm like, you know what? That's not the
No,
reality. That's not what people are
that's
after.
not Chris.
They're investing in they're investing in you as a person. And if they pick up a book and see all these really long words, so they're a bit, no, mate, that's not you. So yeah, I had kind of had to get out of my own way really to get that over the line. But yeah, since then um, it's been an absolute roller coaster of emotions, professionally and personally. But yeah, and then the TED Talk came about,
Yes, tell us
which
about
was
that. I've watched it. It's really cool. And it's cool to, like, I was watching it going, that's my mate. Like, my
yeah,
mate's doing a
I
TEDx
know
talk.
him.
I know him.
Yeah, it was so bizarre, right? So, and hopefully people will get encouraged by kind of maybe following these types of breadcrumbs, and so when I talk to people about letting go, about whether it's physical things like you guys are experts at, or mental aspects or career, or things like that, to kind of organize and kind of set up a new identity, you need to have a look at the people around you. And so what I did when I first put the book together, I reached out to people that I kind of looked up to, that inspired me, and I asked them about endorsing the book. Some of them I didn't know, I hadn't connected with before, but I just asked the question because you don't ask, don't get, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And some of them came back and kind of endorsed the book and said this is a really interesting approach to personal development and living life and as a whole minimalist and things like that. And I was like, wow, people smarter than me are sharing my work. They're almost going, this is really interesting. And I was like, maybe there is something here. So one of the guys that had endorsed the book, a guy called Jamil Qureshi, who I highly recommend checking out, by the way, he had done a TEDx talk in October in 2021. I was like, similar to you, how did he get to do that? I know him. So I followed the breadcrumbs. So kind of like, who did he connect with? Who did he reach out to? And is this something that I could do? Because this was one of the aspirations that I had, in kind of 2017, 2018, when I kind of decluttered everything and traveled around the world. I was like, I have aspirations that were underneath all of the stuff that I had accumulated over the years. So once I got rid of it, I was like, well, now I can try and hit those aspirations. And one of them was to do a TED Talk. And I reached out to an international business school in London. And I said, just on the off chance, if you're ever looking for a minimalist to chat about, the overwhelm of stuff and the overwhelm of work as well, let me know. And they came back to me in 48 hours and they said, we're shutting our speaker list down in 2 days. Can we interview you about it? So I was like, oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Let's get on the phone today.
Yeah, definitely. So I went through like a proper interview process, and they said, "Oh, we've never heard anything like this before." So it was the whole. If you've not seen it, it's about. I'm talking to listeners here. I know you've seen it, Kirsty.
Yeah.
About doing less at work but having more impact. So actually letting go of the rubbish tasks that we have, assumed that are important, but they're really not. Or maybe they've changed over the years. And that's based on my own experiences of doing crap work that didn't lead anywhere. Working ridiculous hours for what? And all the research that's been going on at the moment about overwork and people's health deteriorating because they're spending so much time at work, etc., etc. So I said, look, I've got something to say about this. Would you be interested? And they did the interview and they said, yeah. Would you go on first? And I was like, whoa, hold on a minute. What do you mean? And they went, oh no, we definitely want you to. Can you go on first? And so you won't see that because I went and did. It was on a Sunday, so it's filmed on a Sunday, so it was streamed live around the world. And you get to stand on the red bit of circle, the red carpet. And I go out and it's just like a blur. Like 14 minutes it was done in. And I just did my talk and was almost in the moment. And then the only bit I remember, Kirsty, is I was looking at the front row and there was one of the TED staff who held an iPad and it clicked over to 11 minutes. And I went, I've been talking for 11 minutes. Better start wrapping up. So yeah, and then went off stage, had the applause, and I looked on the screen because they had a laptop in the kind of green room backstage, and it was delayed by like 15, 20 minutes. And I could see the stream of people from all over the world going, I'm looking forward to seeing Chris Lovett talk. And I'm like, how has this happened? Like, I don't know why. Like, how do they even know who I am? So yeah, it was one of those life experiences that I'll never ever forget. Made lifetime friends doing it, and there it is. It's in the world forever now. So yeah.
So talk more. I'd love to hear more about. TED Talks are only 14 minutes. I was like, oh, Chris, you're just getting to the really good stuff, obviously, because I already know your decluttering journey and that's my jam. So I was all like, you're getting to the really interesting stuff for me around decluttering work practices. And so, and I know heaps, vast majority of our listeners are also out in the workforce, not just
we've all got jobs, right?
At home. So please tell us your wisdom on decluttering your work and being more with less. Less is more.
That's it. Yeah. So it was called Less Busy, More Impact. And the story basically goes around that I joined a new company, an organization, new team, and was given a whole lot of work to do. And when I asked, whether it was important, everybody said, "Oh yeah, this is really urgent. This is really important." Then the next thing came and landed on my desk, and they're like, "Oh, now this is important and this is urgent," and everything became important and urgent. I was like, "But if that's true, then surely nothing is important or urgent.
And nothing is urgent."
Yeah, that's it, right? So so I kind of did this weird experiment where I just stopped doing stuff. It was a little bit disruptive, but I just stopped doing a bit of work just to see what happens. And nothing really happened. There was no negative consequences. People just forgot about it and moved on because they were too busy with the next thing that came apart. So I was like, I wonder if there's something here. So I then just stopped going to meetings. I stopped responding to emails. And I found that there was no negative consequence. Like nothing happened. I'm looking around at people going, why are you all working through your lunch hours? You're working ridiculously late hours. Your relationships are suffering. Your health is suffering. What's going on here? And so I went and listened to a load of people, because that's kind of what I do. My day job is as a leadership coach as well as a simplicity coach, and the two combined all of a sudden shone this light. I was like, there's something here where we can help the overworked and the overbusy and the overwhelmed with doing less. So I've helped people kind of go through the psychology of why they love being busy.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was this badge of honor that we all wore. So we love to tell people in our social circles of how busy we are, because it puts us on a pedestal about how successful or how in demand or how important we are. And generally, when we go out in social situations, one of the first questions is, what do you do? Which underlines the whole point of where, we're in a social setting here. Where do I stand? Do I stand above you? Do I stand in parallel? And so that's what we try to subconsciously work out with different people. What do you do? And that became less and less important to me over time. And it was almost like I asked the questions like, what difference have you made?
Yes. That's exactly what I was going through. I was all like, oh, I know some really good questions that you can ask instead of what do you do for work?
Yeah.
Like,
well, there you go. So, what difference have you made recently? Or what are you really passionate about at the moment? And
how have you made someone smile this week?
There you go. Amazing. Well, this has made me smile this week. So you've done an amazing start. Yeah. And so I started asking those types of questions, and people really struggled to answer them. But they were always really busy. And I was like, what are you busy doing? And they really couldn't understand what it was. It was busy getting caught up with responding to emails, busy going to meetings that were actually a repeat of the one they did last week, and spending so long perfecting something that would have been completely fine being good enough. And so I've been working through lots and lots of personality types and interviewing lots and lots of people about this kind of busyness pandemic. The second wave of COVID is not a physical interference, it's a mental one now, because we're working way more than we did pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the reason why that is because when you're working from home, you don't get to see how other people are working, so your anxiety increases. And so to hide that anxiety of, am I doing enough? We work more. The imposter syndrome comes into it as well, because we can't validate what we're doing compared to other people. So we just go in this weird spiral of overwork, because if I'm working more, that will help, regardless of whether it's and if other people see me working more, that will mean that I am in demand. It means I won't lose my job, or I won't get demoted, or whatever. And then obviously the downside of all of that is we're staring at a screen for longer. We're worrying about irrelevant pieces of work in the bigger scheme of things, and it impacts our relationships and our health. And so there's loads and loads of stories, which I'll kind of share one now. But I've started writing the second book, which is going to be called Relentless. And you didn't see Kirsty's face then. It was just this big kind of beaming smile. Yeah, Relentless. We've just started. So I've just started interviewing people about why they're really busy and the impact it's caused on people. But yeah, so in the TED that I'll explain about the whole Lego experiment, which I found. And basically, a group of people were asked, can you secure this Lego structure? And they could do it in one or two ways, either add one more brick or take a brick away, right? Addition or subtraction. Most of the people just went and picked up another brick and added it to the structure. But actually, the simplest and cheapest way was to take away, to subtract, right? To let go. But people didn't realize that because they were in pressured, busy environments. So their default in the brain was, let's add one more thing. And so that's what we tend to do. We tend to look at a situation or a challenge and go, oh, let's have another meeting about it, or let's put a new process in place, or let's do more to solve the problem. But ultimately, the main solution could be let's do less, let's let go. And so that's where the whole kind of this professional minimalism has now been born out from, and where Relentless is going in that direction. Yeah.
It's making me so happy. I'm like so excited for this research, so excited for this book, so excited for people who are going to be impacted by your work. I love it. I'm so excited.
Well, the thing is, it's been bubbling since maybe before Discovery of Less came out, because I was listening to how people were really busy and how they never had time. And the one thing they really wanted was time, but they used all of their time, energy, resources on stuff that didn't really matter. And you know what, Kirst? One kind of image really put it into perspective for me was I think it was NASA recently released a picture of Earth from Saturn's rings, and you can just about make out Earth, this tiny little dot. And I was like, well, blimey, that puts all my emails into perspective, doesn't it? So I was like, in the bigger scheme of things, how important is it that you have to reply to that email in 24 hours? The rules and assumptions and the cultures that we've set up over years are probably no longer relevant, or parts of it are redundant now. So it's figuring out which parts of those old rules and assumptions that we probably just made up over time. There's never really been any rules that have been written down. Just groups of people have got together and thought this would be the best thing to do. Let's have a meeting every Thursday afternoon at 4:00, and it's going to be an hour. And over time, people turning up to that meeting going, why are we here? Like, what's the purpose of this? Oh no, but we'll carry on doing it because it's tradition, or because it's, that's just the way it's always been done.
Or they think it's the most efficient way. Like one of my dear friends says, what would it look like if we thought in a different way? Like, it's ... What would it look like if? So I've even got a Post-it note on my screen that says,
amazing.
What would it look like if? Like, and that just like lets you be creative and use your imagination around what would it look like if we didn't have this meeting? How would that impact? What impact would that have? Is there a different way that we can communicate what needs to be communicated?
Yeah.
Like, what would it look like? What would it look like if ...
And that is exactly it, Kirst. It's almost taking everything that we've learned through our own personal experiences and having the decluttering business and putting it into a corporate professional context where the personal and professional lives have now been completely blurred.
Yes.
There is, working from home has blurred everything together. So where it used to be, let's declutter our personal lives, let's get rid of the clothes we don't wear, the Tupperware we don't use, etc. What happens when you did that, but then you still were stressed out with work or stressed out with tasks and things like that?
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's trying to combine the two, because, I'm working from home. I have a home office. Most people have had to, and now have that option of, I can do 3 days in the UK, especially, I can do 3, 4, maybe even 5 days a week working from home. So if your personal life is decluttered and satisfactory, but then you log on and there's freedom, right? And then you log on and it's a mess.
Because you found freedom, and then you go to the other aspect of your life and there's no freedom. Like, it just highlights, I think that like it really highlights when you don't have freedom. Like, and I think that goes across anything. Like, when you've had freedom in one space in your life, then you notice everywhere else that you don't have freedom.
100%.
And so it makes total sense that when you have freedom in your space, then your eyes are open to where you don't have freedom. And work is a huge part of most people's lives is work. And, we all have to put food on the table. We all have to have a house, a roof over our head. So work is a necessary, and it doesn't have to be necessary evil. It can be producing beautiful things into the world and can be like,
Make a difference.
it can absolutely make a difference. And so, how can we be making a difference and making a difference within the place that we're making a difference? And, not everybody has to make a difference in their work capacity. Like, and it is all dependent on your perspective and your frame of mind when.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it's that fulfillment as well. Like, if you're not fulfilled, is there things that you can be doing to make it more fulfilling? Or is there something you want to do less of so you can do more of something else? And that's where we've been working with lots of individuals and teams, and so I've kind of been I'm trying to not use the word busy. I need to think of a different word other than busy, but I've been
intentional.
There we go. So I've been very intentional with lots of teams around the UK and a couple in Europe as well, actually, where they've asked me to come in and speak. So I've gone into teams, gone into companies, sometimes virtually, and there's thousands of people on the screen, and I'm like, oh, this is weird.
Yes.
But again, just told the story about how decluttering can form a new path into your personal and professional life, and how it can help you achieve so much more by focusing on less. And yeah, people have changed careers. People have become healthier. People have, massive teams, huge organizations have all of a sudden gone, yeah, you know what, we need to change the way we've been working for so many years. And it's literally started because I got rid of my DVD collection. So that's where you can start, start. Yeah, that's
it's a ripple effect.
Like, it is.
How crazy. Yeah. That's what I love about decluttering, is that when you declutter, then you can do exactly what you did and lift your eyes up to go, what's next? What can I put my hand to now that I'm not feeling cluttered in my home and I'm not feeling overwhelmed by my home? That's when we can look up and go, well, how can we change the rest of my world? And can that extend beyond my own little, just the more we declutter, the more we can lift up our head and see more ways that we can have an impact on the world.
It's opportunity, right? It's like once you see more clearly,
yes,
you start to see more opportunity, and that's what I've been seeing. But when people are cluttered in their personal and or professional life, people can't see opportunity.
It stifles creativity. It absolutely stifles creativity.
That's it. And there's been so many people I've spoke to recently around, opportunity, and where I've spotted something that they could maybe try, but it hasn't really registered for them because they've been so overwhelmed or overworked. And that's kind of what tends to happen with people. And so I'm almost like, the talent that I've been introduced to in the UK, especially the generation beneath us. So is it Gen Zs, right? So I worked with a few students who did the TEDx, and I was like, these guys are incredible. Like, the quality of the ideas and creativity that the 21, 22, 23-year-olds have got blew my mind. Right? And I thought I was a little bit creative, right? But my worry is that they then get sucked into this world of being busy, and they just become a carbon copy of the management and leadership that we've been taught in the past, that or these things, if you're busy you're important, or if you're busy you're in demand. And so what I'm trying to get across to people now is, it might be a little bit disruptive, but being busy doesn't necessarily mean that you're making an impact anymore. So if I look at, say, a CEO's diary, and I look at it and go, wow, you look like you're playing Tetris there, mate. Like, what's what room have you got to go for a walk? And they'll be like, oh, I don't really. Okay, great. So walking brings creativity. So you've minus that, so you lack creativity. What about sleep? Oh yeah, I only do like 5 hours. Okay, right. Sleep replenishes the brain, right? So all of these things now. So having time for creative actions, time to stop, time to listen to people, time to do all of these things. If they are not in your day-to-day setup, are you really successful now? Maybe in the past we would have looked at people and gone, money, title, and how often and how much you work. That was a measure of, and the items that you bought. How big's your house? How big's your car? They were a measure of successes in the cultures that I've been brought up in. What we're looking at now is actually a measure of success is, are you fulfilled in your job? Is it impactful? Does it make a difference? Is it sustainable?
Yes, sustainable.
So, you know, what are the things do the things you do make a difference? Are you learning? Are you growing as an individual? Because if you're not, you're going to get left behind, so, especially the things that are changing so quickly, right? So I look at all these, you know, CEOs and I'm like, right, how much time have you got to learn new stuff? Oh no, I don't really. Right, okay, so your decision making is faulty because if you're not in touch with your people, if you're not in touch with, you know, the generation that is coming up now, how do you know how to converse with them, how to listen, how to have emotional intelligence? So all of these things are now a modern view of what success in a professional context looks like. And so I'm kind of helping people from the past, from pre-COVID, to come through and look after the new wave of talent that's coming in, that is a little bit more challenging, that is a little bit more happier to say no to stuff and go, no, that doesn't meet with my values. And how do we help with the climate and and all of these things? And money's not the most important, and all of this stuff now that is, you know,
and you can't incentivize me to work more by giving me money. Like, that's not my driving. If that doesn't drive me, actually spending time with my friends drives me. So why don't you incentivize me to do less? Just like understanding that generation and learning how we can change our generation can change, and how much healthier that could look for. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many impacts on this, like, because it's not just about your professional life, it's how are you feeling inside, how is that impacting on your family, like if you've got family, like how are they happy with the amount of time that you're working? Is that fulfilling for them as well? Are they tied into what's driving you? Like, do they care? Do they care about having a bigger house or better holidays or a better car? Like, is that, you're saying to yourself that you're doing this all for your family, but what does your family actually want? Like, because it may not be the house and the car and the holidays. It may be your time.
Yeah, exactly. And your quality of parenting, you know, and things like that. Yeah. And
the ability to learn, like, the emotional intelligence. Like I was saying to my kids the other day, you are going to be a better parent than me, because like you just, that's the way that that's human nature. We build on what we've been taught. And so you're going to be a better parent than me, but also they are so emotionally intelligent. Like, and that is not just because I'm building that into them. They're getting that built into them in school, and they're being that built into them from their peers. Like, this generation of young children are so incredibly emotionally intelligent. It blows my mind every day. And like you said, like that half a generation up from them are really emotionally intelligent as well. And so we need to bring our A game to that as well. Like, being leaders of these people, we need to be emotionally intelligent. Otherwise they're going to be like, yeah, no, we can do it better. Let's start our own companies and not work for yours. Like,
that's what, because it'll, you know, the people of science go, no, I'm not going to do it that way.
Yes.
And the you know, there's I don't know what it's like in Australia at the moment, but the demand for talent in the UK is so huge. So there's actually, I read an article recently, there's more jobs than there is talent to take them. because of Brexit and COVID and the cost of living, so all that stuff going on.
Yeah.
So you'll have teams that will be like, oh, we will need a couple of people, and they'll have to work so hard to get that talent, and people are going to look at it and go, right, okay, so what can you offer me now? Okay, so it used to be salary, like you were saying earlier. Or now I want flexible working. And that, well, no, you have to be in the office 5 days a week. And then I go, all right, well, I'll see you later then.
I'll go to the other job that I've been offered.
Yeah, exactly, right. So they want, people want flexible working. People want a decent salary. People want time off. People want to have more autonomy. Things like that actually it never used to come up in conversation, especially in negotiations that I've been in the past, where I've been like, it was just salary. Mm-hmm. You will be here 5 days a week. You will do the work that you're given, but we'll give you this as your reward package. And you're like, oh, well, I suppose I'll have to take it.
Yeah.
But now it's changed. So the talent holds the power, and the talent can go, well, I want to do 4 days in the office and 1 at home, or I don't want to work Mondays, which is exactly what I do. So I've basically just said, this is how I work best. And so I do 4 days consultant coach for a large organization, and then a 3-day weekend every week. And that brings the best out of me, but it gives me all the satisfaction of having that freedom. Plus also when I do work, I'm the very best version. Mm-hmm. I'm not a watered down version or diluted. I am on top of my game all the time. So then that helps other people. But anyway, like we were saying, Relentless is coming. Book 2 is in the works. And so look out for that one. It's exciting stuff. But yeah, we're doing lots of talks at the moment as well. People ask for me to zoom into their teams and their organizations and go, tell us about how this whole minimalism at work works for us. Yeah. What does it mean? And I'm like, right, well, think of decluttering. Think of the things that you used to hold on to so tightly that actually you've never used or doesn't, no longer adds value. So it's the same concept, but it's with your meetings, it's with your emails, it's with the work that we believed that was once so valuable, but actually maybe now not so much.
Oh. Well, I could keep talking to you for a lot longer, but I want to honour your time because I know that you're going to hang out with another Australian friend who's in your country with you.
He is, he's actually British, but he moved to Australia.
But he's
got an Aussie twang now.
Now call him Australian. Have you not heard of what Aussies do? We claim everybody for our own, even if they were here for 2 seconds. So we will claim your friend. Yeah.
And you claimed his accent as well, because he used to be a Londoner, but now his accent is everything ends in a question.
Yes, like me. That's how I speak. And except I also kept a few words from my London accent from 20 plus years ago. So I still say dance and France and advantage and except, it's not a Cockney accent. It's but it's not a plummy accent either. So, it's the Kirsty accent.
Exactly. It's authentic to you. Yeah.
Yeah. So plug where people can find you. So we want those who are listening who are like, oh, I need more of Chris in my life. And, people who want you to get in their head even more, we want them to know how to get you in their head.
Yeah. Well, I suppose if you are a visual learner, the TED Talk is probably the best. So you just go onto YouTube, just put Chris Lovett TED Talk into Google, and that should pop up. That talk is about 14 minutes long. So, even if you got a spare 14 minutes, which, if you haven't, then you really need to see this talk. It's called Less Busy, More Impact. Discovery of Less, the book, which Kirsty mentioned earlier, it came out in 2021. That is on Amazon and any other online bookstores that you get your books. It was in the top 10 last week It just keeps popping up into like top 10 charts, and I'm like,
That's
how?
awesome.
Why is this possible?
That's
So
awesome.
people are really enjoying it, and it's a nice kind of it's a nice slow journey into decluttering your life. You can find out quite a bit more about me as well. So if you're kind of into also traveling and like career changes, all a little bit of that in there as well. And then socials, just put Chris Lovett into any of your socials, and my big hair should pop up. But so they're the kind of main areas. You can get chapter 1 of Discovery of Less for nothing if you want to try before you buy on lessisprogress.com, which is my website. There's some articles on there. There's lots of free stuff on there. So get yourself your first chapter for nothing if you want to. And it's the biggest chapter. It's like 40 pages. It's like massive. And I was like, there you go, everyone have it for nothing.
Have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll put all of this in the show notes so you don't have to look far to find out how to discover more of Chris. I've got a quick review that I'm going to read out before we say goodbye.
I do love hearing these, by the way.
And this is from somebody in New Zealand called Bathford. And it's like titled Great Expectations with 5 stars. So it says, I was born in Bath, England, and immigrated to New Zealand as a child in the 50s. I love your podcast, and I'm now busy going back through episodes to get another fix. I'm a counsellor, and I really like the way you pay attention to all by the unspoken feelings and worries that can stop us getting things done. I've found while listening to your podcast, I've decluttered the entire house in my head. My husband has recently gone into care now, so now I'm ready. Thank you, Elaine Johnson Fielding in New Zealand. And so thank you so much, Elaine. What an awesome review. And I am going to offer this challenge to people. If you were born in another country from which you now live, then this is your call to leave a review of our podcast and tell us how much you love Chris as well. So I've got 2 challenges. If you also love Chris, then leave a review as well. And we just really appreciate you taking the time to be with us this early morning your time and this
that's all right.
mid-evening my time. It's always lovely to hang out with you and see your crazy big hair and to
I do need a cut.
You bring me joy. So thank you for bringing me joy tonight. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with our listeners. And Amy and I can't wait to be back in your ears again next week. So thank you, Chris.
Pleasure. Lovely. Thank you very much.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us.
If you've learnt something awesome today, we'd love you to leave us a review on iTunes or Facebook so others can find our podcast too.
Don't forget you can see the show notes in your podcast app or over at our website, artofdecluttering.com.au. So if there's anything you want more info on, check it out there.
If you'd like to join our supporter community, you can do so over at patreon.com/theartofdecluttering.
We hope you have a great rest of your day
and enjoy the freedom. We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture.
We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging.